Everyone needs an identity access manager, unless it was hacked. A Copilot arriving early without the pilot? Thank you, Microsoft. And net neutrality is live until it's contested. All this and much more on today's episode of MSP Dispatch.
This episode is presented by OIT VoIP. Enhance your client's communication abilities with our VoIP solution, featuring integrated billing, on-demand training, and live US support. Collaborate seamlessly with Microsoft Teams integration and put your entire phone system in your pocket with Mobile X. Improve your offerings and increase profitability with reliable service for 1/10 of the average MSP acquisition cost. To learn more, visit oit.co or dial 844-CALL-OIT.
Good morning and welcome to the October 24th episode of MSP Dispatch, your source for news, community events, and commentary in the MSP channel. I'm Tony Francisco and joined by my amazing beardy co-host, Jason Slagle. Jason, how are you today? And I loved seeing you. Was that yesterday? It was 2 days ago.
It was 2 days ago. It seems like yesterday.
How are you doing, brother?
Oh, I am excited to be home. It was a crazy. I mean, obviously we had the bad internet edition of this last week, and then I left Saturday, Rapid City, South Dakota, flew to Florida, and I hang out with you and a bunch of other people for 24 hours essentially, and then flew home.
And we saw Mr. Wes Spencer, who said, "Hello, everyone. Do you see who I am?" Poof. Like turned into like vapor, just like that, just enough for everyone to see that he was there. Poof, and
I think
he
you
evaporated.
probably spent longer driving than you spent at the party.
Very, very well played. Very well played, Wes. That was great to see you. So how about this? We had an amazing party. Mm-hmm. We actually got to sit next to each other and like talk and see a lot of crazy people, some really cool costumes. You actually got to meet my family, which is amazing. And I've got to meet yours-ish.
Well, my wife.
Yes. Yeah. Half. It was great seeing you in person, though. It was weird being able to touch you. Is that the right way? Am I going in the right direction? Because normally you're on the other side, so now you're on this side. So now, oh, there you are. Hi. So you know what we should probably do, though?
Yeah.
We should probably talk about the news. Let's get into it.
Let's do it.
Jumping straight into my first story from TechCrunch.com from Zach Whitaker. Okta, a major identity and access management company, recently experienced a security breach. An unauthorized hacker gained access by using a stolen credential to infiltrate the customer support ticketing system. Within the system, the hacker accessed sensitive browser recording files, known as HAR files, commonly used for troubleshooting. Security firm Beyond Trust, an Okta user, reported the breach upon detecting the exploitation of a session token to create an administrator account on Beyond Trust network. Approximately 1% of Okta's customers were affected, with the exact number undisclosed. This incident adds to a series of security challenges Okta has faced, including the previous breaches in 2022. As a consequence of this breach, Okta's stock price fell by 11%. Jason, I am just going to peel this back just a hair. Is it ever going to end? That's all. I just peeked under there. Talk to me.
So I saw a meme actually earlier this week that said, make sure you check your kids' Halloween candy because somebody checked their Halloween candy and found an Okta access token in it.
Oh, wow.
We've reached that level of memeing with this story now. I don't know. I mean, these are juicy targets, right? Like identity providers are always going to be giant targets for threat actors because it's a force multiplier, much like MSPs are, right? If you can go after one group and get a whole bunch of subgroups as a result of that, then why would you not do that?
Well, that's why they went upstream. They went to Kaseya, and look what they did there. There was even some ConnectWise exploitation at some point. And they're looking at the MSPs, which, of course, each MSP, a small MSP, has an average of 30 to 50 customers. And then you have 30 to 50 customers if you have one MSP. But if you can attack multiple MSPs, now it is that multiplier that you referred to. But in this particular case, this is analogous to LastPassy, where Over a year ago, when I was talking about, hey, these breaches, just FYI, I was literally getting attacked by people saying, you can't say that about LastPass. Just because their source code was infiltrated, it doesn't mean any, another breach because of the source code that was, but it's not that big of a deal. It's, they've actually figured out the, So is this, because that went way upstream. So what are your thoughts on this? Is there a way around this? Because you and I, we love load balancing, we love, some type of fault tolerance. What do you do about this? This is your identity management system.
So, I mean, I'm looking at the article here, and I haven't gone through all of it and gone back to the source, right, beyond TechCrunch. I'm wondering if this is some sort of like file transfer vulnerability in some sort of file transfer system, right? Because these are HAR files. Presumably, they're HAR files that customer sent in while they were working with Okta support on troubleshooting, right? And those obviously would have, tokens and stuff in them. But is this some sort of file transfer vulnerability again that they were able to get into the system holding these HAR files and grab them? I don't really think there's any reason that those files should exist for longer than the troubleshooting session. And that's actually a real root of this problem here is people don't do proper data management, right? Like there's no reason for that stuff to exist at all.
You know what they should have done? They should have stored with those HAR files. They should have stored maybe the passwords in there in clear text, in a text file. Maybe together, that would have been, okay, so you guys all see the irony, the hypocrisy about this. It is dangerous. And for everyone out there that's listening to this, we've all heard it. It's cliched. You're only as strong as your weakest link. Now, one of the amazing services that are out there are those dark web. Hey, here's this email address is on the dark web, and here's the passwords associated to it, and here's the hash associated. Here's what's been sold. Here's what's been exploited. If you can provide, and I say this, it's 20%. Take 20% of a company and look for if you use an algorithm of a VP, a CX, anything, a director, and you pass that search to those individuals and say, I'd like to remind you, you are the strongest in your company, and here's the list of exploitations of your passwords. You know what you should probably do? Remind yourself that you're only as strong as your weakest link. Go across the board to your organization, figure out where those potential vulnerabilities are, and educate, because just because you practice you implemented your policy, you preach your policies and your practices, it doesn't mean that has filtered all the way through. And that is a perfect example of what could happen.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen CEOs, right? They tend to be some of the worst at some of this stuff, right? Like they don't think they're targets for some reason I don't understand. And they're the ones that usually tell me to turn off MFA. It's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm just not going to do it.
But it's inconvenient, Jason. It's inconvenient. I have to do the thing. Okay, so implementation of a security practice with an application that supports the policies, that provides the processes that are defined, which means that in theory, it's kind of like something is assisting you, kind of like a Copilot. It's kind of like right there by you all the time. So if you don't really know what's going on, it'd be really cool if the Copilot was here early and was provided by a vendor that rhymes with Microsoft. I think you have something about that.
Yeah, I do, Tony. So in my first story, I have Microsoft announces Security Copilot Early Access Program by Sergio Gatlin from Bleeping Computer. Microsoft has announced the Early Access Program for Security Copilot AI Assistant. The tool is designed to aid security teams in countering threats using Microsoft's Global Threat Intelligence and Large Language Model. This AI assistant, similar to ChatGPT, provides instant incident summaries, guided responses, natural language queries, and real-time malware analysis. It adapts and tailors its recommendations to individual enterprise environments, saving time and improving threat detection. It also integrates with Microsoft 365 Defender Extended Detection and Response Platform, giving early access participants access to Microsoft Defender threat intelligent data. Managed security service providers collaborating in the program can extend access to their Security Copilot environment. The tool promises to speed up incident response, making it valuable assistance for security teams. That is a handful, and I have so many questions, Tony. What are your initial thoughts on this?
Well, let's break this down. So first things first, Copilot as it exists is not to be confused with Intune or Lighthouse or some of the other major tools that Microsoft has been working on for over a decade. Copilot is new, and it is simultaneously absolutely amazing and totally terrifying. Now, the question right now, I can hear everyone's head shaking for a variety of reasons. The implementation and involvement of an AI in something that is there to guide you through security, that should terrify everyone.
Yeah, I kind of don't get it.
That's kind of where I'm passing it back to you. What are your thoughts on that, Jason?
I mean, how much information are you going to have to pass this thing to get instant incident summaries? And if it can summarize the incident, why didn't their tools prevent the incident, right? Like, clearly I know enough about this thing to provide you a summary, but not enough to stop it? That just doesn't make any sense to me.
How is the data shared? Is it thinking like a hive mind scenario, or is it a local database local to the workstation?
Yeah.
Is there a blockchain scenario of storage? Are you able to store a blob? Is it a blob database, a binary large object database that stores everything other than just signatures or heuristics or anomaly detection? And when it does receive that, does it share it with other locations? Yeah. And what does that central repository look like? These are the questions that go through my mind instantly. And then that's the basic stuff. This is entry-level stuff. What happens from there? What are the executables? And can you provide exceptions? And do those exceptions register to the source? And if there are enough exceptions, then maybe across the board, the severity of that trigger isn't executing an exception or an action, more of a warning. But if that's the case, are they actually listening to all that you're doing, and the source and the IP address and the pathways? Doesn't that have a security breach? There's so many questions that I have there.
We just did another story about like this overarching thing that becomes a juicy target. I see another one of those right here.
Well, so, and you just kind of stole my thunder on that one.
Yeah.
At the end, it's doing all this amazing stuff inside the lifeblood of an organization. What if it is spoofed?
Yeah. I mean, on top of that, like, you've got the risk of potentially sending the data somewhere where you don't want it, but incident response has a whole bunch of things in it, like chain of custody and other legally required things that I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts about whether or not some of that stuff would pass muster, because we've all seen that when ChatGPT at least doesn't know the answer, it just lies, right? So is this thing just kind of lie about your incident?
I
mean,
you don't have the answer, so.
I mean, you could spin the wheel and just blame threat actors, right? Like they're a known, or it could just make up new threat actors. If it doesn't fit, now it'll be, instead of clop, it'll be like plop. Right?
It's the spin-off of Clop, and their new ransomware is just insulting you. It's not actually doing massive damage, it's insulting you. But you need to be careful of that, and here's the implementation policies we recommend, which, by the way, is solved by Microsoft by ordering this SKU.
I mean, the other side of it is like real-time malware analysis. Doesn't Defender do that? Like, it's supposed to. I just don't. I mean, great training data, right? Like, they should totally be training Defender and other things with this type of data, and I'm sure that's their strategy. But if it can do real-time malware analysis, why didn't it stop the threat? Why didn't it analyze it before it was a threat, before it was malware? Especially if you have, the Defender extended detection and response stuff. I would think that it would have just grabbed it then.
So, and this is because I know we're past our time, but this opens up an interesting question. Is this becoming analogous to a big Jenga tower? Okay, and because that's what it's sounding like. It's sounding like a large Jenga tower where we're not adding resources to the bottom. We're just simply removing stuff and displacing it, putting it at the top, and it's definitely becoming taller. But almost unsustainable. and are we confusing activity for productivity? And are we just doing something just to do it and slap the AI logo on there? But I think it's too soon to tell.
Are we building the Eye of Sauron? That's how we're going to get that tall. We're just going to install a giant eye on top of it.
Well, is it the Copilot eye?
Yeah, it could be the Copilot eye. No.
Okay.
On, I think
Let's jump into my next.
We need to go to equally troubling news, which, depending on which side of it, could be troubling either way. So what you got for us, Tony?
Absolutely correct, Jason. In my next story from arstechnica.com, FCC is moving ahead with the Title II net neutrality rules in a 3-2 party line vote. The FCC's 3-2 vote on net neutrality rules has sparked controversy, potentially legal battles, and significant implications for the future of the internet regulations in the United States. Advocates argue that rules are necessary for an open and secure internet, while critics, including FCC Republican Brendan Carr, question the need for government intervention, viewing the rules as overly broad. The main issue is the FCC's authority to reclassify broadband as a telecommunications service, setting the stage for legal disputes. ISPs are likely to challenge the decision in court, with the outcome influenced by the Supreme Court's stance on agency decisions regarding major questions. The debate also extends to pre-exemption of the state-level net neutrality laws, as FCC Chair Jessica Rosenworcel aims to establish a uniform national policy, potentially nullifying the existing state regulations. So, Jason, every single thing that you and I talk about sits on, what's that called? The internet. The internet, the great information highway, for those of you who were not alive in the 90s and don't remember this. This has the ability to completely deconstruct everything that we work so hard on. However, the players that are providing this structure, which, by the way, have completely aggregated and almost become a monopoly from the Ma Bell days, the breakup, the sprints, the GTEs, all the way, and then it just reconsolidated all the way back up. They're concerned with, hey, listen, you're putting a lot of stuff through us. We should have some control over it, or the ability to throttle it, govern it. And then you talk about payload inspection, which includes content and preferences. It has the ability to destabilize everything that we work so hard on. What are your thoughts on net neutrality? Because I see both sides.
So do I.
But I'm interested in Jason's side.
Yeah. So my big struggle, I worked for an ISP for many years, and I think my big struggle here is that the internet service providers are relying on parts of the Telecommunications Act of 1986 to classify them as common carriers so that they don't have to inspect the traffic and stop bad things, yet they want to ignore the other parts of that same Telecommunications Act that make net neutrality a thing, right? Like I feel like in some sense you can't have it both ways, right? Like if you're able to make decisions and inspect the traffic in such a way that you're able to open fast highways for people that pay more, slow down things to people that don't pay as much, can't you inspect that same traffic looking for known bad things? And then what kind of censorship and other things do we open up going down that road too? I am generally positive on net neutrality as a result.
You and I are on the same exact channel because we recognize the validity of something, but the needs of the many, we'll speak that language. But now we get into an interesting subject because you talked about the dependencies on a rule from 1986. Don't you think, because let's go back even further, I believe into the early 70s, where you have the Secret Service, if we're familiar with Secret Service, was tasked, their charter was any type of telecommunications crime. Consequently, and this is not a joke, go look it up. I was part of this, by the way. In the event somebody place an order. Remember the dollar CDs? Remember the dollar CD? Oh, you weren't alive then. For all those who order, or I'm sorry, a penny for 100 CDs or a penny for a CD, whatever that was.
Oh yeah,
CD collection. You remember those?
Yeah.
If you called that in, that was a telco crime, and the Secret Service had to be involved. I am not joking. If you used your phone even to dial in on the internet, what's now the internet, but if you dialed in with your computer, that was a telco crime. So that since has been lifted from the Secret Service charter, of course, that's just doesn't scale. But there was an evolutionary process there. Are you referring to the same evolutionary process that is really, really the kind of the fulcrum, the keystone here that was generated from 1986? Don't you think that evolutionary process needs to take place? And how do you think that would be done? Is there anything off the top of your head you'd recommend?
I mean, a lot of these carriers have no problem taking the billions of dollars from the FUSF to like increase access to rural areas, right? But they don't want they'll take the free money, but they don't want to follow the rules, some of the rules that come with the free money, right? So they want to be able to do things to earn them even more money. I get it. They're for-profit companies. I totally understand that. But I have a hard time sympathizing with most of them. I have a pretty good friend that runs a wireless ISP here, and he's very for doing it just because it allows him a certain amount of flexibility that he doesn't get depending on how the rules are constructed. But I generally am for open access and not selectively slowing things down.
I think we're saying the same thing here.
Yeah.
It's appreciated. So with that, what I would like to do is kind of reach out to the MSP community, because there are MSPs that not only say, hey, listen, net neutrality, this is the way we want to go, but there are MSPs that I've spoken to personally that have said the reason why you don't want a completely open net neutrality law to be the overarching rule for everyone, and you need some type of governance, or more importantly, preference and priority, is X. And I'm not going to talk about that because you can't explain it, you don't understand it. I don't think I can explain it as well as they did. Consequently, I don't think I understand it as well, but they had some points that opened my eyes. So I would love to hear from the MSP community. What are your thoughts on net neutrality? Do you even care? Do you even care? Some of you are still using your old your bulletin boards on your server over there, your old dial-up ISPs. But what I think we should do is hear from you, and more importantly, get into some notables.
And in my first notable, critical SolarWinds RCE bugs enabled unauthorized network takeover, by Nate Nelson from Dark Reading. SolarWinds, a key player in IT management, faces 8 newly discovered vulnerabilities in its Access Right Manager tool, 3 of which are labeled as critical. These vulnerabilities could allow attackers to attain the highest privilege levels on unpatched systems. SolarWinds ARM tool is crucial for managing user access rights to data, files, and systems, and these flaws pose a significant risk. The most severe bugs can lead to remote, unauthenticated attackers executing arbitrary code at the system level, potentially resulting in a complete takeover of the affected systems. While SolarWinds has released a patch, network administrators are urged to apply the update promptly to mitigate these risks. And in my next notable, Telegram is still leaking user IP addresses to contacts, brought to us by TechCrunch. Telegram, a widely used messaging app, is still vulnerable to leaking users' IP addresses. Security researcher Denise Simonov exposed the issue, demonstrating that simply adding a hacker to your contacts and accepting a call can reveal your IP address. Telegram, with 700 million users globally, promotes itself as a secure and private app, although experts have cautioned that it isn't as secure as Signal. This IP address leak during voice calls has been known for some time, but may be unfamiliar to less technically savvy users. To prevent IP exposure, users must manually configure settings to avoid peer-to-peer connections during calls, a feature intended to improve call quality. While other messaging apps have faced similar issues, Telegram's stance is unique, considering it part of the app's intended functionality.
In my first notable mention from bleepingcomputer.com, Google is testing an IP protection feature for its Chrome browser aimed at enhancing user privacy by concealing their IP addresses through proxy servers. IP addresses are commonly exploited for covert tracking, and this feature will route third-party traffic via proxies to obscure users' IP addresses for select domains. This safeguard against cross-site trafficking will be introduced in phases, initially involving Google's own domains. Users will have the option to enable this feature, and its rollout will be including regional considerations. Although it benefits privacy, the feature raises cybersecurity concerns, such as hindering security and fraud prevention services and the risk of proxy server compromise. Google is addressing these issues with user authentication and rate limiting measures. In my next notable mention from TheVerge.com, Reddit is considering blocking search crawlers from Google and Bing if generative AI companies refuse to pay for its data. Initially, Reddit denied this report, asserting nothing is changing. However, following a correction, it appears that Reddit may block search crawlers instead of requiring logins for users. This could potentially exclude Reddit posts from search results, and the company hasn't ruled out this possibility. Reddit's updated API pricing was designed to incentivize AI firms to pay for data used in training extensive large language models, a move that was initially ambiguous. Several news organizations have blocked content from being scraped by entities like OpenAI. Twitter, now known as X, has also introduced new pricing tiers for API access in response to data scraping by AI startups. And in our resource of the week, join Connor Swalm, Wes Spencer, and Kyle Christensen on October 24th, 2023 at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the webinar, How is Cybersecurity Different from Managed IT? And dive into the distinctions that differentiate these two essential elements in the MSP landscape. This webinar is designed for the MSP owners, IT managers, technicians, and cybersecurity professionals, offering insight to refine your technology strategy and expand your service offerings.
There are plenty of amazing upcoming events taking place across the community, so let's see what's happening this week. Starting today through the 26th, an in-person event, Seven Figure MSP Live in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And then also today, later at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, the Huntress Product Lab. And as you just heard about on our resource of the week, today at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, How is Cybersecurity Different from Managed IT? Presented by Finn. And coming from the MSP Media Network this week, we have, later today at 1 o'clock, Partner First, MSP Help Desk Phishing, Lessons Learned from the MGM Attack. And on the 25th at 10 a.m., AI Roundup is back for episode 33. And then later this week on the 27th at 11 a.m., Friday is jam-packed full of great stuff, starting with MSP Community Live, followed right afterwards at 12 o'clock by Bits and Books, episode 3, where we're going to be unpacking the book, Leaders Eat Last. Are you engrossed by the intriguing world of AI? Do you find yourself relying more on ChatGPT every day? Are you fascinated by creating visuals with Midjourney or Stable Diffusion? Or could it be you're contemplating the deep-seated implications AI has for your professional field? If you're struggling to keep abreast of all the AI developments, don't worry. I'm Phil Buck, the host of AI Roundup, a weekly digest of all things AI. Make sure to check in every Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern for a concise roundup of the most captivating AI news right here on the MSP Media Network.
So how'd you like today's show? If you like it, please hit that thumbs up button. If you didn't, go ahead and hit it 3 times, 5 times, whatever the odd number is to make sure that it looked like you like it, but you got the satisfaction of not liking it. If you want to hear more, go ahead and hit that subscribe button on your YouTube in your favorite podcatcher. Did you know that we have a Discord server where we post these stories all week long? You can even post your own stories where we can vote on it and see which ones we're going to cover. As Ray's friend, and our friend, everyone's friend, Rich Mankey says, make sure you tell a friend. Also, be sure to follow us on social media at MSP Media TV. Do you have any questions? Email us at news@mspmedia.tv for answers on the next episode, or just leave us a voicemail at 833-MSP-NETWORK. Jason, I cannot tell you how excited I still am the fact that I just got done seeing you. Hello, Jason. Hi, how are you? It's like, but I can't touch you. See, I can't touch you here, but there is a picture of us somewhere together. Maybe we can post that here at some point. Maybe like here. It's a picture. I don't know. Great seeing you, brother. Yep. Why don't you go ahead and land this plane for us?
Yeah, Tony, great seeing you again. I believe I have one more episode that we're doing Friday, so I will certainly talk to you then.
Gives me something to look forward to. Everyone, please be safe. Jason, look forward to seeing you and everyone else on Friday.
Yeah, see you later.
This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.
And good morning, and welcome to the October 24th episode of MSP Dispatch, your source for news, community events, and commentary in the MSP. Hold on. There's your B-reel, kicking it out early. Okay, one more time.